Welcome to today's tech workshop. Today is April 21st, and today we're talking all about teams and groups. How can you operate inside of Command at the highest level? What's different for you? What things do you need to consider in setting up a team or making changes to your team? We're going to be covering a couple of items here today, but before we dive in, I want to get a couple of housekeeping items out of the way. Like I mentioned, my name's Donnie. I'm your Director of Technology here in the Keller Williams, North Florida region. And all of your market centers also have a market center tech trainer. We have incredibly talented market center tech trainers here in all of our locations in North Florida. So if you're not familiar with who your market center tech trainer is, reach out to a member of your leadership team and ask them who could help you with Command locally in that market center. Now, a couple of things specific for today's workshop. Yes, today's workshop is being recorded and will be posted onto our Keller Williams North Florida YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. So if you're watching along, maybe you're following along and doing some work in Command in real time, and you maybe missed something and you want to come back, have no fear, you can always come back and rewatch this recording. This is also going to be interactive. We're all here to make sure that we get through all of the content that we have today and answer any questions that you might have. So for the next hour, if you have questions throughout our workshop, feel free to use the chat box. We're actually going to be communicating through that chat box quite frequently throughout the workshop. So go ahead and locate it now. And I'd love to see inside of the chat box, just type in what market center are you tuning in from today? Go ahead and type into the chat box, what market center are you tuning in from? Or what market center are you a part of? I know many of you are still working from home, so getting familiar with that chat box. I'm also going to be able to drop some links and resources in there. We've got Gainesville, Orlando North, Winter Park, Altamont Springs, Waterford Lakes. We got all over the map, Claremont. I love it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm also going to be providing some links and things in there for you throughout today, so you definitely want to keep an eye on that chat box. So what changes are we going to be covering today? We're talking about what impacts teams or groups and how they operate inside of Command at the highest level. That means we're going to be focusing in on 5 different categories or 5 different areas of Command today. Now, we're going to be going back and forth between our slides and live demos of Command. So we're going to learn about it, and then we're going to go back through and actually see how it operates live in a demo. We're going to focus on a couple of areas though. First, we're going to focus on team management. What ways can you currently manage your team? So what is involved? We're going to talk about settings. What settings do you need to consider for your team? What do you need to change as you're transitioning on or off of a team? We're also going to go through 3 applets today: contacts, SmartPlans, and opportunities. What is different or unique about teams and how they leverage these 3 applications as we're going through the process. Now, before we go through, you might be wondering, why are we only focusing, or why am I focusing in on those 3 applets specifically today? Well, we're going to talk first about what is teamified, if you will. Where do teams, or what changes for teams? In the screenshot that you see on the screen in the top right corner, you actually see the name there. So you see my name currently. When I say respect the shell, you're going to hear me say that throughout today's session. Respecting the shell, what applets? It's going to be what account do you have selected inside of the shell? Here in the live demo, if I look, I have my Rainmaker. I'm on my regional tech trainer team. I have my team account selected. Now I've swapped and added and selected my personal account. Inside of Command, you have 2 accounts if you operate on a team. One that's a member of everyone on the team, you're in the team account, and every Command user also has a personal account connected. So switching between the 2. Now, when you switch between these 2 accounts, we're going to talk about what is impacted, what is currently respecting the shell. That's going to be a series of applets. You're going to see changes in contacts, tasks, SmartPlans, opportunities, reports, and settings. So we're going to look at what impacts. When you have what account is going to determine what you're seeing when you're inside of these applets that we have selected. Now, that means we also have 2 different sets. So we have a team account and a personal account. What changes between those 2 accounts? What's the same? Currently today, your contact database, when you're separating out and you're looking at your team account versus your personal account, You have two contact databases that you're going to move contacts between. I like to think of these as buckets. You have a personal account bucket and you have a team account bucket. And there aren't ways that we can double dip between the two buckets. So they have to all match for these to line up in line. So in your contact database, in addition to that, there's three unique elements to a contact that are individual to the specific account. In your personal account, you have your personal contact tag database. You have lead sources and you have custom fields. Inside of the team account, we're going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes around who can manage this, but your team account has a standard set of contact tags, team lead sources, and team custom fields, two separate sets of those three pieces of data related to our contact database, two separate buckets. You also have a sales pipeline in your personal account and your team account, and a SmartPlans library for your personal and for your team account. Again, we're thinking that these are all two separate buckets, and in order for a contact to be used on a personal SmartPlan, all of the buckets have to match. It needs to be inside of your personal account to be on your sales pipeline for an opportunity, and your personal account, the contact has to be in your personal account. All three of those items need to match to leverage those. So think of these as two individual separate buckets for those three. Now, we're going to talk through a little bit of the details around, and I know that we're kind of big picture right now. We're going to start to narrow in on some of the details between team account and personal account. And the first thing we're going to be able to do that is talk about team management. So we're talking about team management here. For those of you who are on the call today who haven't started a team, but maybe you're thinking about starting a team, if you want to start a new team, or if you have any questions around how a team is managed within Keller Williams, that conversation is going to be with your Market Center administrator. If you go and reach out to your MCA in your Market Center, because all of our Market Centers have a Market Center administrator, they are the angels who help make sure our checks get signed on time and make sure the Market Center stays open and operating at the highest efficiency as possible. Start with them. They are going to have access to the team tool to help build new teams and manage your teams. However, for those of you who are on the call, you have some ways that you can actually either make requests or manage teams today. For example, inside of settings on your team management page, you have the ability to first add a new member. Now, when you're adding a new member, we have two different member types. We have where you can add a team member. That might be a new agent, whether it's a buying agent, a listing agent that's joining your team. It might be a showing assistant, so a licensed showing assistant that's adding. Or maybe you're hiring an assistant or administrator to help join the team. What's unique about these two users between a team member and a guest user is anyone that's going to be a team member on your team will need to go through an onboarding process with the Market Center. They're actually going to join the Market Center. They'll get their own profit share tree. They'll take advantages of being a Keller Williams associate and all of the value that comes with that. That's why it's important to start this conversation with your MCA as you're considering adding a new team member, your MCA or your team leader. The second type of member that you can add into your team account is a guest user. Now, one of the most common ways is thinking about it as an external user. Think about a virtual assistant. They don't have the capabilities of officially joining the Market Center since they're not physically there inside of the Market Center and would be able to go through that process. So you can invite them to be an external user. Whenever you're inviting a guest user, they're going to be able to have access to 4 applets specifically to help you leverage that team and help you take advantage of the leverage that guest user is going to be supplying your business. Those 4 applets are going to be contracts, opportunities, referrals, and tasks, those 4 individual applets. Now, once you're here, 2 other things that you're going to be doing on your team management page is going to be adjusting permission levels or deciding who has access to what. The other thing that you can do, just like you can add a team member, you can request to remove a team member from your roster. We're going to take a look at exactly how to do this live in Command in just a few minutes. I know that there's a lot of words on this slide, but we got to talk about the details because this is really important in the way that you operate as a team inside of Command. The differences between a team member and a guest user, or adjusting permission levels, which is what we're going to talk about next before we dive into that live demo. Permission levels. Who has access to what? Permission levels are going to depend on what roles and responsibilities does each member of your team have. This includes admins, assistants, anybody on your team roster. Whatever they have, we want to make sure that their permission set is matching what role they have or what items they need to complete for you so they can complete everything. Here inside of Command, we have 3 different permission levels. We have standard, enhanced, and unlimited. A small breakdown of this could be for standard. This is going to be the default setting. Anytime that you add a new member to your team, they're automatically going to be placed on the standard permission set. Now, this is going to be our most basic permission level. So it's going to match for a majority of the people, admin, or a majority of the members that are joining your team. What they're going to be able to do is have access to their personal account, everything in it. Inside of the team account is where the standard permission level would apply to all teamified applets, where they'll have the ability to manage leads and contacts that they own or are assigned. Enhanced, cranking up the dial 1 to the next level up of permissions is going to be providing enhanced permissions. This is going to include everything that's inside of standard, with the addition of the ability to view and manage all contacts. Think about enhanced permission levels being a great way to apply for your admin or your assistant, somebody who's helping you run the team. Maybe it's an agent on your team that's taking more of a leadership role, so you think it's important for them to have access to all of the leads and contacts inside of the team database. That might be somebody that you consider for the enhanced permission levels. Last, but certainly not least, the highest level of permissions is going to be unlimited. They have access to everything within the team account. From default, Rainmakers are going to default. So if you're a Rainmaker or a team owner, you're going to default to unlimited, and you're going to have full access to everything within that single team account. Now, I'm going to start the demo really quick, but I want you to find the chat box, because before we dive into this demo, I want to share a link with you. And I just pasted it inside of the chat box. This link is providing access to this article, Team Management. This is answers.kw.com. That means on answers.kw.com, you have step-by-step instructions and detailed explanations of all of the team management details that we just discussed. Whether you're requesting a change to your team's roster, exclusive to the unlimited permission set, whether you're setting another agent's permission levels for your team, you can click on these links and it will provide some time.
Hey there, Kelly Williams.
Of how to do that, and detailed explanations with step-by-step instructions on how to complete these. So keep that link handy. You're going to be wanting to use that and reference it as you're going through and setting up your team. Before we dive into the demo, I want to also remind you that I want to answer your questions that you might have. So as we're going through this demo, before we go to our next section, I'm going to be addressing any any questions related to team management inside of the chat box. So if you have a question, type those in the chat and we'll be able to pause before moving on to our next subject. Awesome. So as we're going through our team management demo, we're going to look at first, where do we access team management? To do so, I'm going to navigate to the top right corner and I'm going to click on my name in the top right corner of the shell. From here, I'm going to navigate to settings. Once you've navigated to settings, if you're looking to access the team management page specifically, that's going to be located underneath the general settings menu. Inside of general settings, you're going to have 2 options here. First, we started off today's session talking about our 2 accounts. For each person, as they're logging into Command, they can choose what account they want to be their default. So every time that they open contacts, every time that they open opportunities, every time that they open SmartPlans, what account do they want to default to? You can either choose the team account or the personal account. Next up here is going to be team management. Underneath team management, this is something that's going to, remember what we said earlier, respect the shell. Right now, I'm the only member of my personal account. So in the top right corner, I need to click on my name and I need to click on my team account. This is going to display my team roster. Now, here on side of the team roster, this is where you're going to be able to complete the first action, adding a member, where you can add either a team member or a guest user. When I click on add member in the top right corner here, here's where I can say, what type of member are you adding? Am I adding somebody who's joining the market center? They're completing the onboarding process, meaning that they need to have a conversation with my MCA, my agent services coordinator, my team leader, my director. They need to have a conversation with somebody on my market center's leadership team prior to me being able to complete this process, because they'll need a Keller Williams UID. That's a universal or a unique ID code for every Keller Williams associate, even though that's optional here. That will need to be created prior to them being able to add to your team roster. The second option is a guest user. Now, if I go here and I say guest user, notice how I don't have the option of adding a second guest user. That's because this particular team has already used the 2 guest user seats that are available. This is something that's here. Every team has the ability to add 2 guest users to their account. Here's my first guest and here's my second guest. After you've added members to your team, the second thing you're going to do is adjust permission levels. Remember, we're thinking unlimited, enhanced, and standard. Where you're going to adjust these permission levels is going to be right here on the right-hand side in your permissions column. You can click on the drop-down and change the permission levels by simply choosing the option that you want from the drop-down menu. Every time that you see it change, you're going to see a green message appear at the top saying that the permission levels for that associate, that member, was updated successfully. In addition to these, if I click on permissions in the top right corner, while we're still here on this team permissions page, this is a great place to see a detailed breakdown of unlimited, enhanced, and standard. What do those mean to the user? If you go through and you click on the full permissions breakdown right here in the middle of the screen, this is where you're going to see, based on each applet, what can that user do, whether they are standard, enhanced, or unlimited. So a really unique breakdown. If you're thinking, do I really need to upgrade this person from standard to enhanced? You might want to go to this permissions tab, look at the full permissions breakdown, and see if there's any item inside of this list that applies to their job description, that's a part of their roles and responsibilities that they might need to have enhanced access for, like creating a smart plan, removing a contact from a smart plan. Knowing that for enhanced, that contact would only be for contacts that they are not assigned to, because when you're assigned a contact, you get access to do those. So full permissions breakdown right here inside of team management. The last thing that we're going to look at before we leave here, 2 things actually, is going to be first the history tab. This is where you can see all of the changes made to the permission levels or adding and removing team members. You can even search by the member role or search for a specific date by setting those here. Then the final thing that we're going to discuss here on this team management page is going to be, how do we request removal? Now, we can either request or remove. Notice right here on my guest users, I have the ability to remove the guest associate myself by clicking on that little minus icon. Inside of the minus icon, I'll choose remove, and that will remove the guest access. For members of the team, that means they've joined the market center. Any team members that are not a guest user, I have 3 dots here where I can request 2 things. I can request removal from the team, or I can request a role change. Maybe my administrative assistant just got licensed and now she's going to become a buyer specialist for our team. I can send this request. Whether it's going to be a role request change or a removal request, that action will be taken by your MCA, a member of your leadership team. They'll be notified that you've made the request and they'll process that through. That is the highlights of everything that you can do here on your team management page. Before we move on to our next, I see that we have 2 questions in the chat box that I want to address. So Kim asked, can only one person be unlimited? For example, on a 2-person team. Kim, that's a really great question. You can actually upgrade the permission levels and you can have multiple team members be unlimited. For example, here, we actually have this team member and this team member both in the unlimited stage, or sorry, unlimited permission levels. I could also upgrade the agent on the team to be on the unlimited permission level. So you can have more than one person with unlimited permissions. The biggest difference between enhanced and unlimited is the ability to hard delete. So if you're on the fence around, well, should I put this person at enhanced or should I put this person at unlimited? Keep in mind that enhanced will be able to archive a contact, but they won't be able to delete the contact permanently. So those are the things. Unlimited is reserved for hard deleting data. Great question, Kim. Ernst asked, my question is pertaining to emails. When I send an email, it leaves command and goes to Gmail. Why is that? Ernst, that's where the preferred Gmail. So that's where it's designed right now. I appreciate the question. Whenever you click on an email inside of a contact record, it's going to take you to Gmail where you can either craft to send that email, or you could simply just copy the email. So that's the other thing that's happening in the background. Anytime you click on a contact's email address, it's copying it to your computer's clipboard so that you can paste it into your preferred email platform if it's not Gmail. Great question, Ernst. Awesome. We're going to dive back in and continue our workshop here. We're doing great on time. We are going through some of the details and moving into our next section around settings. We're going to go back into settings and see what respects the shell. So keep in mind, just like we saw in team management, depending on what account you have selected will depend on what information is being displayed. For example, for contacts, depending on the account you have selected inside of the shell will determine what contact archive you have. You have a team contact archive and a personal contact archive. Same thing for your database wipes. Contact tags, lead sources, and custom fields. What database are you managing? If you're unlimited or enhanced and you have the team account selected, you're controlling the team contact tags, lead sources, and custom fields. Last thing here is lead routing, which is only for teams and will only be for the unlimited permission levels. Opportunities also have respecting the shell built into contacts, or sorry, to your settings. For client updates, opportunity tags, opportunity archive, and team permissions that are exclusive to the settings page. Let's take a look at what that means. So I'm going to go back here. I'm inside of settings, inside of command. Notice that right now I have my team account selected in the shell. On the left-hand side, I'm going to click on command settings. And the first thing I'm going to do is go into contacts. Here, when I click on contact archive, here's a list of contacts that were previously added. I can scroll through. I currently have 15 total in the team archive. If I click right here on the top right corner and I switch to my personal account, I now have 0 contacts inside of my personal account. So 2 different archives. It's respecting the shell. Whatever account you have selected is what's going to be displayed. Same thing for a database wipe. Right now, I'd be archiving all contacts in my team account or archiving all contacts in my personal account. Same thing with your tags. It's going to continue down the line, changing the account and the option there, and you'll be able to go through and keep inside. Next, we have lead sources, custom fields, all going to be exclusive. Am I managing my custom fields for my team account or my personal account? I'm actually going to throw this question out there, and I'd love to see your answers inside of the chat box. Right now, the way that I have my current screen selected, I'm going to go right here to contact tags. Can you tell me inside of the chat box, am I currently managing my team contact tag database or my personal account contact tag database? Let me know inside of the chat box which one you think I'm currently managing when I'm creating a tag. Am I creating it in my team tag database or my personal tag database? Liz, Dan, Ernst. Yep, that's correct. We are all adding teams right now into the team tag database. You guys nailed it. That's awesome. As we're working through here, the other element that you're going to see is your opportunity settings. This is going to be for client updates. This one's a little bit different. You have two tabs, one for your personal, one for your team. If I go through and I see opportunity tags, this is going to be for my team or my personal account. So swapping there. The last thing that's going to be exclusive to the Rainmaker or the unlimited permission level is team permissions. Sorry, I skipped opportunity archive. Same here, opportunity archive for team or for personal. Team permissions is the last piece. So this is the only element that is outside of your traditional team permissions that are going to be here placed. A Rainmaker gets to decide, do team members have access to their personal pipeline or do they not? That's going to be chosen here. Right now, my team is currently set up that no members of my team can create opportunities private or on their personal pipeline. Remember to keep those questions going through. We're going to keep moving through to the next section where we're going to be talking a little bit around contacts. You guys are doing great. I know this is a lot of really detailed information, so I appreciate you being here and staying in tune. I hope that you're finding some value out of today's class and TeK workshop. I teach that every month, the first 3 Wednesdays of every month. You can always see the rotating topics and instructors on kwnorthflorida.com to register for future classes. So keep those questions coming through to the chat box that were there. Just want to do a quick scan to make sure I didn't miss. Ernst, it looks like we got a little bit of feedback there. Yeah, Ernst, if it could be awkward, depending on the program that you're used to using, ideas.kw.com is a great way to go ahead and suggest what you would prefer to see that button do. It's how we suggest back to our development team to make changes. So I appreciate that feedback. Awesome. Right here, contacts for teams. Let's talk about what's different within contacts. This is probably the most complex area for teams operating in command. What happens in the team database? And we're going to go through a couple of different demos here. First, remember we have our team account and our personal account, so 2 separate. That means that we can change the account on a contact. So if I have a contact currently in my personal database and I want to move it to the team database, maybe it's because I want to add them to a team SmartPlan or create an opportunity for them to represent the transaction on my team's pipeline. In order to do that, I need to move it from my personal account to the team account. I can complete this in 2 different ways. I can either use a bulk action on contacts, which we'll do a demonstration of in just a minute, or I can go into the individual contact record and use the ellipsis or the 3 dots in the top right corner just next to the edit pencil icon to change the account there. So 2 different ways that you can do that. Whenever that you're changing an account, we're doing it 1 of 2 directions. We're either going from personal account to team account. We'll talk about that one first. Personal account to team account. If I'm moving a contact from my personal account into my team account, everything inside of my personal account is going to remain. 3 pieces of data are going to turn into legacy data. So any personal contact tags, personal lead sources, personal custom fields that were attached to that contact will remain there, but they're going to be turned into legacy data. That way, when I join a team, the team might have a different standard set of contact tags. So that way I can follow the systems and the models that were set in place by the team and the Rainmaker of that team. So I can reapply team tags after migrating to the team account. Personal account to team account. The other thing that's going to happen when you transition, when it becomes legacy data, is it's going to be a duplicate check. So it always is scanning for duplicates based on the user's email address. Meaning if the contact already exists with the same email address instead of the team account, it's not going to allow me to transition it over. We can't have duplicate contacts with the same primary email address within the same account. So duplicate check is with the email address. After we're going through 2 other things to consider when you're thinking about archives, your contact archive for that duplicate check, a lot of people don't realize that it also applies there. So let's say I see Anna Brown, you're out there. Anna Brown's a contact in my personal account and my team account. Let's say I archived Anna's contact record in my team account. Now I want to move contact from my personal Anna to the team. Because there were duplicate contacts originally, and all I did was archive to the team account, I would have to remove it completely from my team account before it will allow me to move over. It's also scanning your contact archive to check for duplicates. So keep that in mind if you're having trouble transitioning accounts to and from. Let's talk about the second transition. So when we're talking about transitioning back, so we're going from our team account to our personal account. From team account to personal account, same duplicate check process. It's also going to check your personal account's archive before it goes through, looking for a duplicate email. The other thing it's going to do, if it's a contact that's returning to your personal account, any contact tags, sources, and custom fields that were changed to legacy data inside of the team account will automatically transition to be back to contacts, sources, and fields. It's almost like the contact never left your personal account. All of the interactions, the notes, the information that's stored in the contact will remain. The only thing that changes are those three elements: tags, sources, and custom fields. We're going to talk about how SmartPlans are impacted in just a few minutes after we get through the rest of this section related to contacts. Before we go into our contacts demo, two other things. We're talking about how contacts are respecting the shell. There's three different areas that are unique to a contact that's inside of the team account. That's going to be who owns the contact, who truly owns the contact. What that's going to define is, in the event of a separation, who would take the contact with them. So every contact inside of the team account has a contact owner. The second thing is an assignee. Who's responsible for maintaining the relationship of this contact? Now, if you have standard permissions and you're in the team account, you're going to see only contacts and leads that you own and that you are assigned. That means for standard permission levels, if I'm assigned a contact inside of the team account, I'm going to see and have the ability to edit a contact, log interactions, add notes, add them to a smart plan, creating an opportunity, or adding and removing team tags. I'll have access to do everything that I need to maintain and manage that relationship with the individual contact. The third element that's unique to a team contact or lead is a collaborator. Who needs read-only access? Maybe they need to see the information in the contact record. However, they don't need to edit or archive that contact. They don't need the ability to create an opportunity or add or adjust the smart plans the contact is subscribed to. Collaborators gain read-only access with one added ability that they can add a note. So they can add notes to the contact, but they have read-only access the rest of the way. So let's go through a demo of contacts. Keep in mind, I know that this can be the most complex section. We're still talking about smart plans and opportunities next. Any questions that are related specifically to teams, contact or database management for teams, I'd love to see those inside of the chat box as we navigate through this next demo, going into the contacts application. So first, it's going to respect the shell, just like we had before. I'm in my Rainmaker team account. So this is my team database, and this is my personal database. So I have the two databases. Here inside of my team account, my personal database. Excuse me. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to create a new contact inside of my team database. That means I'm going to personally own the contact. And I'm going to go ahead and use Dan Hale because he is here. Don't worry, Dan, I'm not going to put your contact details on the screen. I'm going to make up an email for you, dan@hale.com. And I'm going to say Dan, because he is an agent in St. Petersburg, I'm going to create that as a custom tag. Remember, I just created that custom tag inside of my personal tag database for St. Petersburg, letting me know where he lives, where he operates. He's an agent in the St. Petersburg area. Now, I'm also going to add agent. I'm going to keep this contact really basic because what I want to do is I want to focus on how do I go and change the account. So I create that contact. I have Dan Hale. I'm going to search for the contact. And here's the contact record as it stands today. I'm going to go ahead and log an interaction. So I'm going to log some activity, calls. I can do all of that information here inside of my personal account because I'm the owner. But let's think about ways that I want to move this to my team account. Maybe I need to create an opportunity because Dan's going to be selling his house. So I need to go ahead and create the opportunity for this contact. Well, I'm not going to be able to create an opportunity on my team's pipeline because it's in my personal account. So I won't be able to actually successfully do this. What I need to do first is top right corner. I choose these three dots. That's the ellipsis menu. This is the first place that because I'm the contact owner, I can change the account. I can select the team account and choose account, and that will go through the process. For today's example, I'm going to use the bulk action because that's the second way that you can complete this. On the left-hand side, I'm going to choose the contact, Dan Hale. Then I'm going to select the bulk action. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. And the very last option here as a bulk action is change account. When I choose change account, it says who owns this contact. And I'm going to say I'm moving it to the team account. You'll see your team's name there. Then I can confirm by clicking change. Now, in the background, what just happened? I still see the contact here. I now see owner, and I also see an assignee column. That lets me know that it's inside of my team account. If I were to click on this contact, I'm going to see a message. Oops, it looks like you don't have access to this contact in the selected account. I'm in my personal account here. I would need to switch to my team account. The other thing that you're going to start to see is whenever it's not in the same account, you're going to see you have 9 contacts that match your search results. Would you like to switch to your team account over here in the top right corner? I'm going to switch to my team account, and there is the contact Dan Hale. Here, once I swap to my team account, remember those pieces of data that become legacy? Here's my legacy tags column. I can see St. Petersburg, that tag that I added, is now a legacy tag. If I open up Dan's contact record, I can see that I have legacy tags. If I had a lead source, it would show me my legacy lead source. I would only be able to now apply tags. Since this is in the team account, this tag here is searching for tags from my team tag database. This is that standard set that my team has already set up so that we have a unified sales language. I'm going to match their systems and models. I would need to create that tag inside of my team database. As we're here, 2 other items that are important to contacts, moving them back and forth. I can now release ownership. So maybe I say I'm added this contact to my personal account by mistake. It's actually owned by the team. I can go ahead and release ownership. 2, for those of you who are rainmakers out there, you might have contacts that you own, but maybe you're not necessarily the person that's going to be assigned for maintaining the relationship. Maybe you're temporarily assigning it to another member of your team. Here's where you're going to see those 3 unique elements. What account is the contact in? And who owns it? That's going to be displayed right here. Contact, account, and owner. Then underneath that, you're going to have contact assignee, who's assigned and responsible for maintaining the relationship with this contact, and who might be a collaborator that has read only access to this contact. If I click back to contacts, maybe I want somebody else in the team to be responsible. Dan's going to be listing his house, and I'm going to assign it to another agent on my team. I'm going to go ahead and go to Dan's contact record. And to the far right-hand side, I'm going to choose my 3 dots, that ellipsis menu, and I'm going to click Assign To. And I'm going to choose that I want to assign this to another agent, the agent on my team, and I'm going to choose Assign. Now the agent, because they have standard access, standard permissions, the agent will be able to see that contact inside of their database. They'll be able to add notes. They'll be able to log interactions. They'll be able to add to everything that was existing, just as if they were having the contact. The only thing they're not going to be able to do is archive or delete it because it's in the team account and it's owned by me. I still maintained ownership, even though I'm assigning it temporarily to the agent. Assignee is a really important element for not only providing access to the contact, but also as we're talking about managing relationships, as we fast forward into our next section, it's going to be important on how do SmartPlans interact with that specific agent. So moving contacts between the two accounts, contact, team account, personal account. You could do a bulk action. You can do individually from the contact record. Keep in mind that bulk actions can also be for up to 9 or up to 500 contacts at a time. So you can move them back and forth, and that it's going to be checking for duplicates. So if one already exists inside of the other account, it's not going to allow it to go back and forth. Team account, personal account for contacts. Let's see, as we're going through, before we dive into SmartPlans, I want to keep in mind if you have any questions related to contact and database management as a team, anything we've covered up until this point, I'd love to see those questions come out into the chat box. Cool. Okay. Well, with that being said, keep the questions coming. We'll have some time towards the end to recap and go through. But in order for us to be able to be done by 1 o'clock today, I want to keep true to our timing. We're going to keep moving forward and start navigating through the last 2 applets that we're going to discuss today. SmartPlans for teams. What's different for SmartPlans, and how do teams use SmartPlans as an applet? So remember, I told you previously, when you're moving a contact from your personal account to your team account, we have those buckets that have to match. Sales pipeline and opportunities applet or sales pipeline and SmartPlans. If I have somebody subscribe to a monthly neighborhood nurture from my personal SmartPlan library, and I move that contact to my team account, that personal SmartPlan is going to be turned off in the background automatically because it's a personal SmartPlan. We need to restart that contact on the team versions of a SmartPlan. Think about it. When we're operating in a team, we're using the same systems and models as a team. That's what makes teams operate so strong. They have a unified system, a unified sales language, unified SmartPlan usage. They have systems and models to match as a team. There we go. Also, as we're going through, we're going to talk about designated agents. So something exclusive to a team account is going to be designated agents. For each step in a SmartPlan, who's responsible for sending that section, sending that step of the SmartPlan or completing that task? Is it the rainmaker, or is it the person that the contact or lead is assigned to? Those could be your 2 designated agents. You also have a separate area for SmartPlan settings, and you can also change for your designated agent SmartPlan steps. This is really important. Who's managing the relationship? They're the assignee. That means that calls, emails, text messages, tasks that might be reminding you to call and check in, maybe writing a note. It would be important for those to be going to the assignee of the contact, since that's who's responsible for maintaining the relationship. Designated agents, it just increases the power and the usability of SmartPlans for teams. Last thing to consider here is for those specific text message steps. So we're talking SMS or MMS, whether it's a text message or a photo message. If it's coming from a SmartPlan, it's going to be needing an individual Twilio account. So Twilio is the service that you can sign up. You can subscribe through marketplace.kw.com. You can activate your Twilio subscription. The Twilio subscription is going to be individual for each agent on the team. And if I have a contact step, a SmartPlan inside of my step inside of my SmartPlan that's sending a text message, and the designated agent is the contact lead or assignee, then that assignee, their Twilio account, that subscription is going to be charged for it. They're also going to use their Twilio number, and they'll also receive the replies that come back to that Twilio number. It's going to use that user's Twilio account. If I have it set up to be the rainmaker, then it's going to use the rainmaker's Twilio account for sending, receiving, and charging the account. So designated agents comes really important when you're talking about text message steps specifically. Let's dive in and take a look at what that means inside of Command today. Top right corner, I'm going to choose RTT Rainmaker. I'm going to go into settings. We're going to go to settings first to take a look at the SmartPlan settings. Talk about designated agents. On the left-hand side, I'm going to choose command settings. Then I'm going to go into SmartPlans, and here's where I have access to the designated agents section of SmartPlans. This is something that enhanced or unlimited, those Rainmaker access, is going to be able to change. Here, by default, who do you want your default designated agent to be for tasks, emails, or text messages? Do you want it to be the Rainmaker or the contact assignee? Most teams use the contact assignee, the person that's responsible for maintaining that relationship. Next, we have the email and the text message. Email is most likely going to be the contact assignee. Who do you want to be the recipient? Whose marketing profile do you want added information? It's going to plug in that user's, that contact assignee, or the Rainmaker. You might have one step of a smart plan that you want to come from the Rainmaker, and then the rest of the emails come from the contact assignee. I'm going to show you how you can accomplish that today. Now, we also have our SMS or MMS, that Twilio account. Is it using the contacts assignee or the Rainmaker? You can set up the designated default agents. Last we have here is the Rainmaker. For those of you who might be on a team with 2 or more Rainmakers, you can choose who's going to default act as that team-owned Rainmaker account. So you choose which Rainmaker you'd like if you do have multiple Rainmakers. Let's navigate over to SmartPlans and take a look, because I think it's a little bit easier to understand when we're actually looking at building or editing a smart plan. Here, I'm going to click Create a Team Smart Plan in the top right corner. New Team Smart Plan. I'm going to click Apply. Now that I'm clicking Apply, here's where I can go through and start building. On the right-hand side, I can build in my actions. I'm going to add a task. Whenever you're adding a step, you get to choose. There's a checkbox. Do I want to use the default designated agent, or do I want to uncheck this and use a different for that individual step? Same thing for emails. Do I want to use the default or uncheck it and change it for here? So this might be a post-closing smart plan. The first 2 might come from the contact assignee, which was most likely the agent that was helping or that customer throughout the transaction. Then one of the check-ins might be from the Rainmaker saying, how was your experience with the team? I'd love to hear your feedback. Saying, as the team owner, thank you for doing business with us. You can change those individually using the email steps. So default designated agent is going to be standard for all, or you can change it on individual steps within a smart plan. Last thing that's unique about Team Smart Plans, if I go back here to edit and I go to discard, inside of your Team Smart Plans library, you're also going to have access to your settings page right here on the screen. So you see this little gear icon. It's a quick little way to get to your smart plan settings underneath your team account. So 2 different ways that you can do that. You guys are doing awesome. I want to go ahead and address, we had a question that came through. George said, if we hire an ISA, an inside sales agent, to call our database that's virtual, do we set them up with guest access with standard permissions? Also, should we assign contacts section by section or all contacts at once? Great questions, George. So first, your options for hiring an ISA that's virtual. That means that they're not going to be a member of the market center. So they're going to be a guest user. You have 2 options that you could do that. If you want, you can have the ISA be the contact's assignee. If they are assigned the contact, that means that they're going to have, I'm just going to navigate to my team settings. If they're assigned the contact, that means that they're going to have access to it they have standard permissions. That also means that for smart plans, emails, text messages, unless you change the designated agent, are going to be coming from the guest user access. If you wanted all emails and text messages and phone call tasks to be for you, and maybe the ISA is helping manage the database, they're not necessarily calling and contacting the associate or the contact on your behalf, you might make them enhanced level permissions so they can see all of the contacts that are in the team database and leads. However, the smart plan steps will come from the contact assignee who you might want to be you. So It just depends on who you want those steps to come from, but those are the two options. Enhanced permission levels, they'll be able to see and interact with all contacts. Maybe you could use custom tags to say ISA if it's something that they're managing, so they can filter by that tag. Or you could change it to standard and have them be assigned only the contacts that you're looking to have them work. So those are the two options. Your second question, should we assign contacts section by section or all contacts at once? So you could do either one. If you have one-off contacts that you need to assign, you can do that using the ellipsis menu on the right-hand side, or you can also use the bulk action, and you can assign contacts here as a whole. So if I'm here and I'm looking at assign to as a bulk action, I can assign all of the contacts at once to another member of the team, or I could do them individually on the right-hand side. So it's just your preference, whichever you'd like to do. Great question, George. Thanks for asking those. Awesome. We're going to go into our last section, which I want you to find the chat box there because I'm going to ask you a question for you to answer here. Talking about opportunities. How do opportunities and teams work? Now, opportunities was actually the first applet that was teamified. So that's why I saved it for last, because if you're a team and you have your team sales pipeline, nothing's really changed in the past couple of months around how you operate within a team. You have a team sales pipeline and you have a personal pipeline. We've had those since the inception of Command. What's important is when you're creating an opportunity, you're always selecting the team. If you want it to go on the team's pipeline, then it needs to go on by selecting the team there. Team opportunity tag database. You can only leverage the opportunity tags created in the team database on your team's pipeline. Assignees, that's something that's unique. Who needs access to this opportunity? You need to add them as an assignee to make sure that everyone that should be able to complete their roles and responsibilities might need to have access to it. They can access as an assignee. Also, last question, and before I display the answer, I wanted to see if anybody knows inside of the chat box, what permission level can view all opportunities in the team sales pipeline, even ones that they are not assigned to? What permission level do you think can see all opportunities on the team sales pipeline, even if they're not assigned that? Letting a few come through. Ben, Patricia, Dan, George. Yes, you were all correct. Unlimited and enhanced. So enhanced users will also be able to see all of them. So you have a transaction coordinator, an admin. You'll be able to add them as an enhanced user permission level, and they'll be able to see all of the opportunities within that pipeline. Let's take a quick look at Command and see how that works when I'm building a opportunity for my team's smart plan. I'm going to click on create opportunity in the top right corner. This is where you're going to want to make sure that team account is selected. Notice that that's something that respects the shell. If you have your personal account selected, it's still going to default because you're on your team's pipeline. If you're on your personal pipeline, you will have to select the team to make sure that it's adding. We can't move a pipeline. Sorry, we can't move an opportunity from one pipeline to another. So adding it to your team sales pipeline. That's what gives you the ability to use all of the tags from your team's opportunity tag database. Last, but certainly not least, it also makes sure that you can add any standard user permission levels. You can add them as assignees to make sure that they have access to the actual opportunity. Now, something unique that's going to happen here, because I'm going to create this as a listing opportunity. We're going to sell Dan's house. I'm going to click create here. After I do 3%, I'm creating on my team sales pipeline. When I go back here to access the contact linking, I need to switch to my team account. Notice that it added the RTT Rainmaker as a collaborator. For anybody that doesn't already have access, they'll be added as a collaborator in read-only access to their sales pipeline to make sure that we can operate and complete all of those roles and responsibilities. So I know that that was quick there for opportunities. Opportunities is the same as we were operating before. The most important thing is making sure you're choosing your team's pipeline right here in your team name in the top right, and adding anybody that you feel needs access to the opportunity as an assignee to make sure that they're there. So I'm going to go ahead and scan. It looks like we're going through So George just asked, is there any way or a way for an admin to always see the Rainmaker's contacts without needing to assign? Yeah, George, that's great. So your admin, you would most likely want to upgrade to enhanced permission levels. When you upgrade them to enhanced, they'll be able to see all leads and contacts within a team database. That's a great question. As I'm looking to see if we have any more questions coming up, I want to also just throw out there on the screen, I'd love to see inside of the chat box, did you find today's information valuable? Give me a yes if you had some sort of takeaway or value add. You learned something new today about teams and how they operate inside of Command. Love to see that in the side of the chat box. As we're looking for that there and wrapping up, I want to remind you that today's session was completely recorded. You can always tune back in and rewatch on KW North Florida's YouTube channel. If you're looking for a way to find that, check out our website, kwnorthflorida.com. It has access to our training calendar. George is teaching Profit Share later today. Our regional director is teaching Profit Share. She teaches it every month. I teach on the first 3 Wednesdays of every month. For those of you who are on a team and an admin or operations role, we have a monthly mastermind on the 4th Wednesday that you can register for there. In addition to that, some great resources that you have beyond today's session and beyond the resources on kwnorthflorida.com. Answers.kw.com, great way to check out step-by-step instructions for how to complete these items inside of Command, always up to date by our Keller Williams University team. You also have the question mark in the top right corner of Command that can access guided tours, Keller Williams University articles, and your support partners back at Keller Williams. Ask who your Market Center tech trainer is. Talk to a member of your leadership team and ask who that could be. Last but certainly not least, our support team can be reached through support@kw.com for those items that can't be addressed through support chat or on answers.kw.com. My name's Donnie Brookman, your regional technology trainer and director of technology for the North Florida region. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time. I hope to see you again at our next session. Will actually be May 5th. Starting at noon, and we're talking all about streamlining your transaction with DocuSign and Command. So tune back in 12 noon on May 5th, which is Wednesday. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Talk to you soon.